So we've discussed before this idea of a grand chessboard when we talked about Brzezinski. And it's a way geostrategists sometimes speak about the world, and that the ultimate game would be control of the geography of the earth. And I'm going to work with that analogy that he has, a chessboard. But I want to use biopolitics, because what we've been discussing here is that the world is working under some assumptions that we're questioning. And we're looking here at this final prize of world hegemony, or a world empire, more precisely. And so we look at the chain of all empires, and they were stringing to this ultimate final empire. And we've argued that there's the same oligarchical set um, that has come through, and this is one of their tools, is building empire for this final project of control, geographically and otherwise. Now, when we think of the chessboard, and I've used this analogy sometimes just in practical statecraft or day-to-day politics, we could think of different pieces connecting to different power points in the nation, or on the surface of the earth. Corporations, governments, church, law enforcement, military, and people might throw in, Hollywood in there or something. These are the control that help control the body, the mind, the opinions of people. So it is a sort of analogy, especially a one-dimensional analogy of power. So what is the hidden matrix in this chess game? Like, what are we supposed to? Is the queen not really the queen? Is a pawn really more than a pawn? And this is where, I mean, unfortunately, I'm going to go to Agamben here. I know that's vague, but something about the body gives the dominant oligarchs their control and their right to be, even if their power is sort of hidden or invisible. And what do I mean by that? Well, in the modern era, what we've discussed is that with this hidden matrix of power, in part, what I'm going to suggest, and I believe what Foucault and Agamben are talking about, is the power of oligarchs that lie behind the scene. And what did we say? How do oligarchs rule? What are they? Well, they're families that pass on their power, that embrace this larger project of handing off the baton from one empire to the next and one hegemonic power to the next. They control and are able to wield this power, A, by what Foucault will call the secrets of empire, but more precisely, they control the money supply, and they intermarry with other aristocratic figures or nobilities. And so within that mix of oligarchical family structure controlling the banking supply, they control monopolies. This began in the modern era with the rise of the British uh, East India Company, and that would be the company that would really create all other subsequent companies. So they create monopolies of control. And with the domination of the world money supply and the dominant corporate structures, they go into each and every nation as private contractors with private armies. They create the infrastructure, the economic infrastructure, then they hand it over to political regimes of their own creating, whatever monarch they wish to install in that country. This is the history of the state system since 1648. So you got families, they control the money system, they control the dominant monopolies, they create the political regimes, and ultimately what they're about is capturing information, owning the newspapers and the televisions and so forth. And in particular, what they're interested in terms of amusing you or offering you entertainment, they like to deal with abstraction. They do it in science, theory, and they do it in culture. And they have a number of purposes, largely for control, to abstract things. Think of modern art and what that does to the mind, heart, and soul of the body when you think of this type of abstraction as purportedly supposed to reveal some kind of truth about the human condition. So where are we at with this? Where we're thinking about the chessboard and pieces being moved. Where's the hidden matrix? We could kind of think there's a hidden hand behind the movement of the board. Where does this come from, and how do we get a grasp on what the controlling elements of the political structure really are, the agenda there, and how we fit into that agenda?